Hi, and welcome back to the Switch Show. Welcome. And I think you guys have. It's been a while. I didn't know what I wanted to say then. That's why I stopped in my tracks. But yeah, it's been quite a while since an episode was published. Pending on when you get this, I took a month-long hiatus. All through the month of July. I did not post anything, so most likely you're going to be listening to this episode from the month of August. So happy August. I took a hiatus. I talked about seasons, and it kind of was my winter season, and winter season is not a month long, but then I needed a break to recalibrate, re-strategize, to think through a ton of options, to think through a couple of things. And yeah, we're back. So yeah, how are you guys doing? How is the family feeling? I don't know what to call us. I just call us the Switch fam. The Switch family. So how are you guys doing? Hope you're having a blast. If your day isn't going the way you expected, I believe that God is able to help you have a beautiful day. And if you're listening to this at the beginning of your day, hey, you're going to have an amazing day today. You're going to have an amazing week. You're going to have an amazing weekend, depending on when you listen to this. Just know that God's got you and everything is going to be all right. So yeah, today's episode, we're going to be talking about chasing shadows. And you've already seen from the title, Chasing Shadows, a 21st Century Quandary. I wanted to write something else, but there's a way new words fascinate me. Okay, before I get into the topic, I need to just talk about this for a little bit. I don't know if you guys have the same feeling when you see a new word. You're probably looking for, you're looking for a word. Let's say you're looking for a word like wealthy, and you're looking for the definition of wealthy. You don't just want to give your own interpretation of wealthy. You want to give a dictionary definition to the word wealthy, and then you stumble on the word affluent. Or you're looking for the word wealth and you stumble on affluence. You're like, ooh, that sounds bougie, and then you use it instead, and then someone looks at it and is like, damn, I've not seen this word, or I don't think I hear enough of this word. And you have this feeling of satisfaction, like, yes, I'm using a word that is not so common. Well, it happens to me all the time. So when I was looking up the word, I think dilemma or problem, I saw the word quandary, and I was like, ooh, that's a fancy word, quandary. I like words that start with letter Q and X, and we don't have a lot of words that start with the letter X. So anytime I see a word like that, Q or letter X, it piques my curiosity, piques my interest. So yeah, chasing shadows, a 21st century quandary. What is a shadow? A shadow is a dark area or shape produced by a body coming between rays of light and a surface. This definition has to do with the shadows that is cast when a light is shown on you or on an object, like Peter Pan. It's not like Peter Pan, that Peter Pan shadow is able to run away from him and he had to sew his shadow to the bottom of his shoe for his shadow to stay. It's not like Peter Pan. I don't know if you guys have watched Peter Pan. Maybe I'm old. But anyway, the definition I was going for is the definition, the context for today's discussion is a weak or inferior remnant of or version of something. That is what shadow is. So you see, this era, especially these times, you see a lot of criticism of this generation, the Gen Z, and that's because this generation is stuck in a loophole. Is it loophole? A loop. Sorry, not a loophole. It's stuck in a loop. It's like, do this, repeat. Do this, repeat. It's almost like an infinite loop. and some people will call it the matrix, something that's been programmed, that's been stereotyped, that is done in a way, that is configured in a way that it's almost impossible to break out of the system. So this generation is left chasing the inferior remnant or version of something, and I would bring light to why I'm talking about this. And I'm talking about this, as a human, as a Christian in this world, and just your regular biological male human being. Yeah, before we go on, quandary. What is quandary? Quandary refers to a state of perplexity or uncertainty over what to do in a difficult situation. And rightly so, this generation is when God, I don't know why I'm mixing my words, but when posed with challenges or challenging situations, we always resort to a flight mode. They said it is known by neurologists. You can take further research. Neurologists or people that study the brain I've observed, even psychologists, I think, I've observed that when your body is faced with an uncertain situation, when you are faced with something that you're not, dare I say, you're faced with something that you're not familiar with, your body jumps into fight or flight mode. Yeah, your body jumps into fight or flight mode. So your body is either trying to ward off the danger or face the danger, and it doesn't have to be something catastrophic every time. When something is uncertain, it doesn't have to do with life or death. Many times it's just situations, maybe being placed on a spot to make quick decisions or have good decision making abilities for your life. It might not even be in the public, it might just be your personal day-to-day activities. We see ourselves failing, and I'm saying this is not to point accusing fingers to other members of this generation, not just the Gen Zs, but other generations, even the generation of our parents. This isn't just to point fingers, but it's something that in one way or the other we've been guilty of. We're faced with a situation, we're faced with let me put it this way. You are going out. I'm taking this example from vlogs. I watch a lot of vlogs. Let's say you are driving to work or something, and you want to get fast food. Now you know that getting fast food would harm probably your diet, or it goes against your doctor's will, it goes against many things, goes against some of the things you've said to yourself that you're not going to do. But then you're stuck in this you're in this quagmire, you're in this bog, trying to decide if you're going to get fast food or if you're going to just drive straight to work and have your healthy breakfast. I'm using something that is quite common. And then because you can't make a decision, now I'm not saying that it's not good to get sweets here and there. The body requires balance, homeostasis. The body does regulation of your internal environment, but at the same time, there are times where you need to suppress your craving. I don't say suppressing things is not always good. There are times where you have to not give in to your cravings for the greater good. So okay, in essence, what I'm trying to say in essence is that whatever it is that you are posed with that has to do with difficult situations, many a times with this generation or in this century, we are forced to run, we are forced to get up and flee, and that is not always a good thing. In fact, it is never a good thing, to be very honest with you. It is never a good thing. So I'm talking about chasing shadows, and I say it's a problem because chasing the subpar, substandard version of something isn't always the best. It isn't even the best, So, why am I talking about this? And I said I'm going to talk about it based on being a human and being a Christian. So, we know that there are multiple ways to achieve many things in life. We talk about success, and this is where I'm just trying to drive into my first point. There are multiple ways to get things done. There are books on how to get things done efficiently. There are books on how to be a better learner. There are books on, in fact, there's almost a material, a book, a piece of information about every single thing that you want to get done on the face of the earth. But the thing about things like this is that there is always, and if you want to quote me on this, you're feel free. My words are being tangled, I'm sorry. Feel free to quote me on this. There is always a better version of what you think is the best. That is why some people tag some things as better than the best. Best is the superlative. And when it comes to superlatives are almost like the sovereign, the absolute end to something. So when you say something is the best, it means there is none that can be compared to that thing. But when someone comes to you and tells you that there is something better than the best, you're left wondering, what is better than something that was seemingly incomparable to, something that was seemingly sovereign? And that is where I'll talk about this from a Christian perspective. So I wrote down a couple of things, and the first thing is success versus fulfillment. I think I've talked about this on my podcast before, and I've said that success isn't your life's goal. Fulfillment is. Success isn't your life goal. Being successful is good. A lot of people have used success over fulfillment when they hear that, ultimately you're meant to fulfill purpose. They use it as an excuse to harbor and run with failure instead of learning from their failures and becoming successful in the long run. They decide to leave those failures, leave those patterns that they failed with. Instead of looking at these patterns and say, okay, I failed here, I failed XYZ, maybe I should do ABC instead in order to achieve good success, because even the Bible talks about good success. Okay, so but ultimately it is about fulfillment of purpose. And that is the thing about the world. The world talks about, there are multiple religious sects, there are multiple religions, but I'm a Christian and I'm talking strictly from a Christian perspective, and this is the truth. This is the objective reality of things. Whatever it is that we think is good for us, whatever we think is the best decision that we've made in our lives, God always one-ups us. God has this perfect plan, this design that when we compare it to our best, we see that our best is only a fraction of what we are capable of doing. So many times we hear things like do your best and leave the rest for God. This is a quote that they used to tell us back then when we wrote exams in school. You come to an exam severely unprepared, and then each and every single one of my classmates would look at ourselves and would just tell ourselves, do your best and leave the rest for God. And that was our mantra. That was what we ran with all the time. Do your best, leave the rest for God. But it kind of made us slump into mediocrity. Now, as kids, you will not realize. Now, I'm currently reading the book Atomic Habits. I'm currently reading the book. Before I continue, let me just digress a little bit. I have a hard time reading non-fiction books. I read fictional books very well. I could get a 500 paged fictional book, and if I'm committed to it, committed to the plot, I could be done in the next 48 hours. 500 pages, yes. But fictional, it could even be 100 pages. A non-fiction, sorry, it could be 100 pages, and I won't be as intrigued to continue. But the thing about this is that, there's always a push. You need to push, and that's where fulfillment comes in. Success, there is always a pinnacle. Success is a threshold, but fulfillment is more about the journey than the destination. Okay, say success is the accomplishment of an aim or purpose. Fulfillment is a feeling of pleasure and satisfaction because you are happy with your life, and truly there is no fulfillment outside Jesus. I just have to put it out there, because many people think that, you can be fulfilled with your life's work. Yeah, you can be happy with your life's work. There are people that have accomplished great feats, that have made great strides in multiple industries and in multiple facets of living, but ultimately anything outside Jesus is subpar, and that is a sad reality, but it's true. It's harsh, but it is true. Anything outside of Jesus is subpar. And the next point is gratification. I talked about delayed gratification, delayed versus instant gratification. Like I said, chasing shadows. We're always looking for the high. We're always looking for something that would make us feel good and nice at the moment. Like I was saying, that I was reading Atomic Habits. The author of Atomic Habits made it clear that your habits, it's not the results usually that get you into your habits. It's the feeling you get from doing XYZ. For example, working out. If you've made working out a habit, it's not just about bigger muscles or larger quads, biceps, deltoids, calves, hams, whatever. I don't even know the terms, but it's not just about having a physical appeal. There is a feeling that comes, a feeling of an adrenaline rush that comes with working out. Similarly to using psychedelics and all that other stuff. I don't want to go into details because I don't think I'm permitted to be explicitly explicit. But all the hard drugs, the feeling that comes from it is not even compared to taking it. There is this temporary high. There is this, you just feel lighter, you feel at ease, even if you've been bearing the burdens of the world on your shoulders. Even if, like Atlas, the mythological figure, you are carrying the world on your shoulders. When you take these drugs, when you take these psychedelics and pills and everything, it feels like the world, from being a large geological figure, it becomes softer than a marshmallow. Everything just seems to be at ease with you. And that's the thing about instant gratification. It feels good in the moment, but the thing about moments is that moments build up. Moments are compounding. Every moment is leading up to something bigger and greater than you even expect. So delaying some pleasures, and I'm not talking about the bad habits like drug abuse and everything, some pleasures that we give into, like teenage vices, some relationships and the rest of it. Delaying all these things is far greater, because when you eventually get a hold of them, like some of the things you're meant to enjoy in marriage, if you start them early, you would reap the benefits of being pleasured, of being satisfied, and say, oh, this makes a lot of sense. But then when you get married, you lose the taste, you lose the savor, you lose the benefits, you lose the significance of these things when you get married. So that is why it is advised, even though our parents take a very crude method to curbing juvenile relationships, it is advised that you put off relationships till you want to get married, because you are getting committed to be committed. You're not just running into relationships for fun, because it's not an amusement park. It is something that was designed by God for the purpose of dominion and replenishing the earth. All right. So the last point here is trends and progressivism versus patterns and traditional living. Yes, we live in a severely progressive world, severely progressive society, and I'm not one to follow trends. My friends should know. People that call themselves my friends and people I call my friends, they know that I'm not one that is freaked out about trends, simply because I know that everything that starts trending has a lifespan. Usually it's a half-life. It doesn't even last for its full cycle. It's only for a period of time, and then it fizzles out. And by the time it fizzles out, everybody's at rest and looking for something else to latch onto. So I'm not really a fan of trends, trendy outfits, trendy songs, trendy whatever is trending. That is why I regard myself as an old man, because many times my friends I'm talking about my friends, probably on their For You page, they hear in a very comedic sound or see a new trendy meme, and they're talking to me, and I'm looking at them like I've been living under a rock. I'm like, I don't understand. I'm like, you don't understand, guy? You never watch this TikTok? And I'm like, no. And sometimes it's not even my friends, I just hear people talking about it, and I'm like, what are these guys talking about? This sounds so weird. It's just me, and I believe there are people like me. I'm not the only one in the world that is not a fan of trends, but that is what this generation is so particular about. Trends, something new. They're not really bothered about having something that is lasting or something that is traditional. All they are concerned about is mostly trends and something new, something different. But that goes against, if you're a Christian and you are thinking about being progressive or open-minded, then I do not know what God you're serving. And this was how I was told. This was how I was told when I was like, I'm an open-minded person. Saying no, Christians are closed-minded, and it sounds very harsh. It sounds very archaic and crude, but that's the reality of things. Now, being closed-minded doesn't mean you don't have empathy. It doesn't mean you're not compassionate. You don't look at your brothers and see them the way Jesus sees them, as souls that should be won, from the clutches of sin and hell. But it just means that you don't give in to the whims and caprices of the demands of the world. You don't give into the things that this world poses or the things that this world offers. They're talking about being open-minded, and you're open-mindedly contradicting things in the scripture, and you still call yourself a Christian and say, I'm a Christian, but we are tolerant, we are temperate, or we are temperate. I don't know what the word is, but we look lightly on some things. Doesn't mean that we condone them or we accept them. It is because we are seeing them not as bad people or people that are corrupt or people that are like the devil himself, but we are seeing these people the way Jesus sees them. So you're wondering, chasing shadows, how do I stop chasing shadows? If that's your question, then really I do not know. There is no textbook way to say do this, do XYZ, draw a parabola and forecast your trajectory to know that you get a stationary phase of chasing shadows, then there's a decline, and once you hit rock bottom, no, this isn't some sad thing. What this is trying to say is that there are things you should choose over some things. Preference and choice is man's greatest power. God has given us the power of free will. That is our greatest asset. If you think you're not a superhero, think about it that you are being governed by a being that exists outside of time, yet you have the power to choose if you want to accept him or not. And he has the power to alter time and space as we know it, but he has given you, say, take it. If you want to, you can accept me. If you don't want to, that's fine. That is a huge superpower, but that superpower can be used to accept him and live the life that he has planned for you. A life that, even though sometimes it seems very bleak, hope can be bleak, is a life that has been planned and destined before you were even born. So yeah, and that life is going to end with God reaping all the glory, and you're going to live a life of fulfillment. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. This is a rather long one. Yeah, tell me if you guys like to listen to longer or shorter episodes. Yeah, follow us on Instagram at theswitch.show. On theswitch.show, you can see my private handle at Malise Chinoye, MALISEHCHINONYE. Yeah, I love you guys. Thank you guys for listening. We're almost 3 years old. That is amazing. I love you all. Flip that switch and illuminate, and I'll see you on the next episode. God bless you.